welcome back. We've been doing a whole series about why WIP reporting matters for contractors. My name's Tonya Schulte, and I'm with the Profit Constructors, where we help you run with the big dogs. Knowing how to create a WIP and how to use it is really essential for that running with the big dogs. So let's talk about how you would get that data from a tool that our team likes to use a lot called Knowify, where the WIP data comes from, how you can get a hold of it, and why you still need to be hands-on with it. So I think it's super important to think about the fact that Knowify's WIP reports are automated and the information is going to be flowing in all the time, but that doesn't mean that they're hands-off and that there aren't things that you should do to verify the data. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to learn where to see WIP data and information in the Knowify system. And we're going to talk about 2 keys to WIP success when you're working in Knowify. And those are going to be how to reconcile and interpret the data. So first, let's take a look in Knowify. One of the cool things about this is that Knowify includes WIP data right here on their main contracts dashboard. It's going to pull from 4 main places, and it's basically building a WIP report based on the information that you're entering into the system on a regular basis. So the 4 main places it's going to pull from is your contract value, the costs to date, your estimated cost to complete, which is basically your remaining budget, and your billings to date, what you've invoiced so far. Those are the 4 main components of any good WIP. So this is amazing. It gives you live insight into project progress without having to do all of this math for yourself. And actually, one of the cool parts about this is that not only are you going to see this, but you can go into the reporting area of Knowify, and you can actually pull a WIP report. So if we come in here, we can go to work in progress, and we can pull a WIP report with all of that information laid out for us. Again, very much in the way that a banker or bonding agent, who might be a third party that might be asking you for this information, would like to see it. Now you have the ability to make some changes. You can edit which columns you'd like to see here, and you can export this, and you can make even further changes, which is back to what we were talking about, having an idea of how to use this data and how to reconcile and interpret. Because this is important, Knowify, just because Knowify is generating this WIP report doesn't mean it's automatically right for your financial reporting, right? So there's a couple things. One is you're going to want to verify this data and make sure that everything is accurately entered and up to date. You're going to need to have a good back office workflow and process that ensures that for the most part, everything that is showing up on this WIP report is up to date. So you have 2 main responsibilities past to that point of just verifying that the information is as up to date as possible. First, your first responsibility is to reconcile the WIP data to your accounting records in QuickBooks Online. One of the great parts about Knowify is that there's a direct bilateral sort of communication that's happening all of the time between Knowify and QuickBooks. But as you know, anytime we're working in the cloud, errors can happen. And if you're syncing 2 different softwares together and trusting that sync, you do need to have, again, a regular workflow and regular process for checking that the data that's leaving Knowify is entering QuickBooks and is being pushed into the correct areas. So for instance, if we just take a look at the information that's in front of us, we would want to double check that the actual material costs that are being entered here also show up in QuickBooks under most likely a materials cost of goods sold account, right? So there would be just a little bit of back and forth reconciliation between what this says and what QuickBooks says. Because at some point we're going to make an actual adjustment to our financial records, and we can only do that if we're solidly knowing that the information between the 2 systems matches. So that's your first main important responsibility. Your second responsibility is that you need to interpret what the WIP report is telling you. Overbillings, underbillings, and cost overruns all have real-world consequences, and you need to be able to spot them. We're going to talk more about that later in this series. But if you skip both of these steps, or one or the other of them, you could be making decisions based on incorrect information, and that's risky. So, recap. You need to have good workflows and processes that ensure that this data is the most up to date and that you've accurately kind of closed your books and can judge that this is going to be the most accurate and up to date information that we have. You need to reconcile this data back into QuickBooks and make sure that the two agree on our total invoiced, total costs, things like that. And then lastly, and we're going to talk about this again farther along in the series, you have to be able to interpret what the WIP is telling you so that we're not making some of those costly mistakes. All right, coming up next, I'll walk you through how to accurately reconcile this WIP data to QuickBooks and set yourself up for the really good and accurate WIP reporting that you need.